Hello, my name is Brayanoski,
I'm Austin Morales, and you're watching The Inner Gamer On.
and today we'll be talking about DC versus Marvel in video games. Who is going to win the battle? We have some games coming out for DC with Suicide Squad and Gotham Knights, as well as Marvel's Avengers that is here and awesome and exciting to us at least. So we're going to talk all about what they have to offer and will there be a solid winner between the two going forward in the game space? Let's find out.
And as always, if you enjoyed this content, please like, subscribe, and bang that bell, because Brett knows you like to.
Each week, we dive into a hot topic about video games, and this week, we're going to talk about DC versus Marvel in the video game industry. Who is going to win out? We have a lot of stuff that's been coming out about DC and Marvel. Obviously, we've been playing Marvel's Avengers beta. If you haven't heard about all that, go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/innergamer, and watch all of our videos that we have about PvP and will this game keep us coming back and all that good stuff. We also have the Batman Arkham series that's been around for a very long time, which has really shown a strong presence for DC in the game space. And then we have a bunch of new stuff that's being announced. It's coming out soon down the pipeline. Oh, I almost forgot. Marvel's Spider-Man came out a couple years ago. That was awesome, right? And then we have a new one coming out. So what we're going to do in this discussion is we're going to talk about DC versus Marvel in video games. We have the setup of where we are to this point today with the Batman series and then also all the Marvel games that have come out to this point. But none of them have really planted a foothold of what we've seen with, say, the cinematic universe with Marvel or the DC working towards a cinematic universe or whatever they're doing. I don't know as much about the DC cinema universe as, say, Jason here does, but we're talking specifically on the video game side of things. What is this going to look like? So before we jump in, we are at 2020. So far, we've seen the Batman games. We've seen Marvel Spider-Man. All that stuff has come out. How do you guys feel both properties have done up to this point in the game space?
So single player campaign for both games are phenomenal. I mean, if you're looking at Spider-Man, for example, they've been doing super well in the past. I mean, look at Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3, Spider-Man Web of Shadows. Those games are, to me, phenomenal. And then they finally came out with this Spider-Man that we know is for the PS4, and it was just hands down amazing storytelling. A little short campaign, I felt, but still great. And then the Arkham series, I mean, we haven't had a good DC game before then. I mean, look at Superman 64, freaking straight up garbage. And then the other Batman games. I mean, now in this time frame is good for them. I mean, they built up this series for a while, and I feel like Marvel is going to take a little bit longer to do. And I don't know if you guys know this or not, but in the Arkham Origins series, there was a PvP element to it where you there was an online aspect to that game where you fight each other. But that didn't take off well, and that's what I'm super worried about with DC stepping into this platform of online gaming now. I don't think they have it yet with that. I know I'm going a little far with everything right now, but I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see, and I'm looking forward to the new Spider-Man game as well. I mean, Miles Morales. I love what they have done with that character and how they finally built it back up after Spideyverse happened. It kind of he's becoming an actual good icon for the Marvel universe. So,
Austin, what do you think about all the games leading up to this point between Marvel and DC? Who do you think has done a better job so far?
I mean, they've all done really good jobs so far. I don't know. I mean, they're all good in their own respects, obviously, like Jason said, leading up to the Arkham series and this new Spider-Man game, nothing's really been standout. Actually, I like the original Spider-Man games that came out on, I guess it was 360.
Mm-hmm.
And that it was fun because you can jump around and swing around and do all the cool stuff that Spider-Man does, and that was fun. But yeah, nothing really stand out, exciting other than that. And I've enjoyed where we are right now, and I think if it's any indication where we're going to go in the future, I mean, it can only get better. I think.
Yeah.
But I don't know how. Well, I don't know what kind of storylines that the DC universe wants to going forward. I know there's a lot of good ones, but I feel like the whole Batman thing has kind of been done, and I'm glad that we'll get into Gotham Knights. Like, I think it's a good pivot
Yeah.
to what we're used to. Yeah, like Joker's been done too much. I don't know how you beat the Batman experience that's already out there. It's just so good. So I think DC really has to dig deep and find out what's going to work, because it's going to kind of suck that the Court of Owls won't have Batman in it, and because he's a pivotal role, and in the story, I guess the spoilers, you haven't read it already, but I do remember now. Jason, correct me if I'm wrong, but they're the group that was actually behind the killing of the Waynes. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. I'm not a big fan of the Court of Owls.
Oh.
I read it, but yeah, they were behind a lot of things that happened to Gotham. They were just in the shadows the whole time. They actually created. If you really look deep into it, they created Batman, and Dick Grayson was actually a sleeper cell for the Court of Owls.
That's what it was, yeah.
And in the comic scene, it shows Batman. He's in the cave with Nightwing. He just punches the shit out of Nightwing and knocks out one of his tooths. And his tooth had an actual, I think, like a microphone or something, and he never knew it was there somehow. And in this point, Batman is unable to trust really anyone. I mean, Dick Grayson didn't even know he was a sleeper cell for this agency. So that's where, like, Batman doesn't know where to turn, basically. I think that's what makes that storyline very interesting. He's fighting an enemy that's been there the whole time, and he didn't even know about it. The greatest detective in the world had no clue about it. So I agree with Austin. It's kind of interesting that they don't have Batman in there, but I'm not going to spoil anything. I kind of have a feeling I know what they're leading to. So I don't want to say anything that's going to give away more story or more details in that. So
I've heard some fan theory, well, not even theories, but like I think akin to what you've read and heard about, Jason, that people have talked about things that could come to play, because they did. One of the things that I want to talk about later is an interview that they had with the creators of Gotham Knights after they revealed it and everything. One of the things they did confirm, because people were like, is this another Marvel's Avengers thing where Captain America's dead, but we know he's going to come back in some fashion, from the game? And they were like, no, like literally straight up, I'm telling you right now, he is dead. At the beginning of the game, he's dead and he's never coming back. That's it, as Batman. But who knows what they're going to, do with that down the line. So it's,
yeah, I'm really upset with Gotham Knights a little bit. Just because of the fact of the opening trailer is that it made it seem like it was a sequel to Arkham Knights, and that's what I was looking forward to, is a sequel that showing a world without Batman, and how these heroes, his sidekicks, basically, try to adapt. And it was basically going to be like the Battle of the Cowl comic book. Who's going to be Batman? And I was hoping to see that instead of, yes, this is not connected to Arkham Knight. So I don't really have a good continuation of that story.
Right.
They ended it very well, but I wanted to see more. And I thought that's what this game was going to be, but it turns out it's not, which I was a little upset with. But
that would be interesting,
still looks interesting.
Actually.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be that. I don't know. We don't know.
Well, I mean, they did come out and confirm, which we talked about last week, because I thought I heard them say that Gotham Knights was part of the Arkhamverse, but I read after the fact that it's not true. So this is not in any relationship to the Rocksteady universe that they've created. Suicide Squad is in the Arkhamverse, but this one is completely standalone on its own. It's like this is like
sucks.
Marvel, or this is like the multiverse or whatever. So it's like a different take in that world, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was surprised that that's not in that, because I mean, it feels so Arkham. Everything about it when you're watching that trailer, it feels like it's in that universe, it's in that world. But they're like, no, there's no relationship.
I mean, that's one of the reasons I was calling it already like Game of the Year. Like, it's going to be tied in. There's all this cool stuff. I mean, there's a chance that one of the Nightwing or Robin or I don't know if Robin actually did it, but one of these guys could take the mantle as Batman. And I was like, that would be so cool to see that.
Yeah.
And they, they fight differently and they do different things, but they try to be Batman.
Yeah. Let's speak on a little bit of Gotham Knights because, like, Jason, you weren't on the podcast last week when we first talked about this, but Gotham Knights is the first entry point. So, like, kind of recapping a little bit of what I just talked about, we were talking about like what DC and Marvel has done up to this point, and you get both kind of covered a very important piece, which up to this point, I feel like the games that we've seen in the DC and Marvel universe on inside of video games that have done well, putting Ultimate Alliance to the side, are Spider-Man for Marvel and then Batman for DC. But there hasn't really been much exploration beyond that. I mean, we've had like Lego Marvel superheroes, like, so that exists. So there's been some like Marvel adaptations that have existed with Ultimate Alliance, and I think they even tried a superhero MMO at one point, didn't they?
Yeah.
A Marvel superhero MMO, I believe. So they've dabbled in it, but there's never been anything, to my knowledge, that's like stood out above the rest besides Ultimate Alliance, Spider-Man.
They did a
on
DC
Marvel
one
side,
too.
and then DC.
Yeah, DC Universe Online.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. They did do that. And then Injustice, I consider. I mean, that's DC, and that was a really good fighting game.
Right.
But beyond that, I mean, globally, story heavy kind of games. We have like Spider-Man, Batman, of the ones that like really outshine. But now we're moving into Marvel's Avengers, which is bringing all these characters in this huge, awesome, open, expansive, ongoing service. And then we have this Gotham Knights game, which I watched the trailer, it kind of felt like they were leaning into that a little bit because they had the 4 players that were playable characters. And I thought that we were leading into this is 4-player co-op. But then after the fact, it came out and said, no, it's actually 2-player co-op. All 4 of those players will be playable, but you can only play with one other friend, and it's only online. So there's no local multiplayer. And it's a story-based game. So it's just there's some weird decisions that they're making with this that I feel like they could have, because there is, I mean, when you're playing the game, you see all the numbers popping up about all these like RPG kind of mechanics, and it looks like you're getting resources as you're killing people when they show that Mr. Freeze battle. So there's all these things that made me think instantly this is a Marvel's Avengers for the Gotham universe. And then I find out that it's basically a single player game that you can have another friend play with you through the process. So all that other stuff that's in there just felt like it didn't really have as much worth. It made me a little bit concerned about what they're actually doing with this game. So what do y'all think about this after you've had time to meddle over Gotham Knights and where it's headed for our 2021 DC?
I might have to retract my game of the year then, because the whole thing was this is a legitimate challenger to Marvel's Avengers in the DC universe, or at least in Gotham City. And I thought that was freaking amazing. Like, take everything great about Marvel Avengers, put in DC. Hell yeah, like, count me in. But if it's just kind of 2-player co-op, that's not cool at all. Like, how awesome would it be to see all 4 of those guys going at it at once, like kicking ass? Like, oh, that's a wet dream right there, I'm telling you.
Well, and it's weird too, because like, and that's what I don't quite get is they have like the video where they show all 4 of them up on like the thing or whatever. I'm like, so is that just for a video, and then when you actually play the game, there's only 2 of you? Is there ever a chance where there's like maybe 2 AIs of the other 2 people that are in there, or is it just always going to be 2 of you the entire time?
Yeah, probably eventually you can do that. Oh, that's just kind of sad. Maybe they're trying to be different from Avengers. I don't know.
Jason, what do you think?
I don't know. I think I like that fact. I like the fact that it's only 2 players you can play. And at first I did not, like I said, when I watched the trailer to this game, I was super upset and disappointed. And I don't like the fact that there's kind of like a RPG element to it with gaining resources, and I feel like that's unnecessary. But I do enjoy the fact that it's only 2-player co-op, just because the fact that whenever I'm playing a multiplayer game with more than like, I don't know, 3 people, maybe a total of 4 usually, I lose track of the story.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I really love the games, and that's why I really love the Arkham series, is because of the story. And I enjoy diving into that world. And whenever I play with more people, I lose track of what the hell is going on while I'm playing. So like with Breakpoint, we played that a lot. I had fucking no clue about the story. I was just
Fair.
I was just having fun with everyone, like talking back and forth and talking mad shit about the game, even though we're sitting there enjoying it. You know, and it's the same way whenever we were playing Avengers. I know it was a beta, but I had absolutely no idea why we were doing what we were doing. I was just running around as Hulk or fucking Miss Marvel, just no clue. So I don't know. I like the fact that it's like that just because of that. But as for everything else in between, I don't know. I don't think it's going to be a game of the year. I know that much. I feel like I don't see that happening. It's just I've seen DC try to do multiplayer games, and it just can't. It doesn't click, and I think they shouldn't have went with Batman. I know they're building it off of the whole Arkham series, just getting that build up. Oh, it's Batman. I feel like they should do something totally different. So.
I guess what I was hoping might happen might have got away from me. I mean, the fact that someone could take up the mantle of Batman, and there's these guys who have to fill in that space because Batman's dead, you know, or fill that void. I thought it might be an interesting dynamic. I thought that was a natural evolution of where this game was going, but maybe not.
Yeah,
and if that's the case, I mean, it's just sad. I'll retract it. Retract my hopes and wishes have been scorned again.
I mean, you might be right. I mean, to be honest, the Arkham series is huge now. It's huge, and the last one what everyone complained about, but it still was a great game. And I feel like it was a great game because of the storyline. It was interesting. I mean, I seen it a mile away that I knew who the bad guy was, but it was still fun to get there, to get to that point and understand everything in that series and how they adapted it to the comic book, how they pulled things out and made it their own. It was awesome.
Right.
And that's what I was hoping with this Gotham Knights, but it's just I'm so frustrated with it. But who knows? Like I said, they have the foundation. The only way they can F it up is if they personally F it up somehow.
Yeah.
But like I said, with multiplayer games, I don't see DC doing anything great with that.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it might be safe that they did go the route of a 2-player co-op, because I was, while you guys were talking, I was reading through this interview with them, and they said that the game it's simple. It's a third-person open-world RPG. That's what they label this game as. And it just happens that it's a drop-in, drop-out with a friend. So if you want to play with a friend, you can throw him in there, and they can join you on the story, the path that you're taking. And I do kind of, in a way, do like that, because I feel like it's not, because it is single player focused and you can drop in with another friend, like the other friend isn't necessarily going to get the full story experience, but it could be that, I mean, you're not going to have the story be sacrificed because they're focusing single player, but then you have the ability for another person to come in and play. But what I am kind of concerned about is that they did mention in here that no matter what character you play as, the story beats are pretty much the same. So you're not getting any kind of, so basically your character is just your character because you like that character and the moveset that it has. It's just a different skin that's going to be sitting there talking to that person.
Man, this game just went like, holy crap. That's not cool.
I still don't see a problem with that, because I mean, yes, you probably lose the replayability to get different things happen, but I stress out so much on making decisions that I'd rather just straight path.
Yeah.
Well, I think it'd be cool if they addressed these different characters in different ways. And what game's done that? It's like if you play a different character, like the world responds differently to you in subtle ways. It's not like drastically, but I can't remember off the top of my head. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
anyway,
okay, cool.
Cyberpunk.
There,
probably.
Exactly. Cyberpunk is going to be that game.
That's right. Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's interesting. Like I feel it's not what I expected when I saw the trailer, and I think that's okay. But I'm kind of interested to see what they did say, that the core of WP Montreal is not the same group of people that did Origins. Like apparently the team has drastically changed, so they're not necessarily the same team that did that game. So there's people that are obviously comparing them to the Origins team. Like, this is the same team that did that, so is this game going to suck too? And they're like, this isn't the same team. been a lot of shakeups and shifts and changes. And I mean, for me, like I'm excited to see what the Court of Owls thing is brought into a game space. Because it sounds interesting from what you described, Jason, what Austin told me about before when he first read it and stuff like that. It sounds cool, and the talents and like the whole dark like that trailer was so intriguing to me, and I like that kind of darkness to it. But I just hope it has the essence and enjoyment. Like the story beats like hit it home and really like drive the narrative deeper without like this thing, this whole 2-player like drop in, drop out co-op. I hope that doesn't sacrifice the story or hurt the story in any way. Interesting because right now we have Marvel's Avengers having a big, huge blowout game where you can play all these different characters in 2020, the year when everything is going to shit. And if we survive to 2021, we got Gotham Knights, which isn't exactly what we thought it was going to be, but still could be cool. And then after that, we have Suicide Squad 2020. Really, during that whole time frame that DC is doing all these games, we have Marvel's Avengers. Knowing what we have with Gotham Knights, Marvel's Avengers, I mean, do you think it's going to just where we are now? Do you think it's going to keep us going for the next year? Or do you think we're going to jump in and drop off?
I think we are most definitely going to drop off of it a lot faster than we're expecting. I don't see this game lasting all the way up till 2021 or however long they're predicting it to last. And I feel like what's really going to kill them is the online service. I mean, that's just going to kill storyline for me and just the repetitive. That's why I kind of fell off Destiny 1. It felt super repetitive for me, and they probably add like expansions. I played those, did the raids and stuff, but once you do it so much, because we gamed so much, it got to a point it felt repetitive. It should have been done and over.
I agree with Jason. I think we'll fall off. There is repetitiveness to it, and maybe I'm just used to that by now because I still play Destiny 2.
I was gonna say
maybe once a week, every so often. It's not consistent basis, but I can find myself really getting into this one because of the gameplay and the makeup of the team dynamics is much more interesting than in Destiny, where everyone just has guns and their powers are a little different here and there. It's whatever.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot more to dive into with lore and stuff like that, since their universes have so much to go off of. But yeah, I think eventually it'll get repetitive. What are the dailies like? What are the weeklies like? Is that enough to keep us going or whatever? Whatever else they throw in there to make it exciting. But yeah, I think overall, I mean, there's going to be a point where it's like, yeah, we've kind of played all these levels like times by now. Let's wait till a DLC comes out. Hopefully, the outside of just new characters coming, they come up with like interesting new, like, I don't know, mini series missions or something like that that are worth jumping into and aren't as spread out as Destiny 2, because those come out like once a quarter, maybe not even that. They have multiple seasons, but
it's like once a year basically with a new big expansion. For that, it's just the little seasons that come into play with different events and stuff. Another Marvel thing we have coming out this year that I almost forgot about is Miles Morales. Like, we have the new Spider-Man game that's coming out, which obviously this is a single player story, but it's a continuation of this Marvel universe on gaming. I mean, it's not part of the same universe, but it's a Marvel game and it's coming out. So it's like we have this year 2 Marvel games back to back, which is kind of cool. And then next year we're getting into like more DC stuff. So as far as like Miles Morales goes, is there anything like, what do you think is next for them after Miles Morales? Like, Miles Morales is a game that's going to be here. It's going to be fun. It's going to be kind of like Lost Legacy, Uncharted length, probably in some capacity. But what do you want to see happen with the Spider-Man series after?
Oh, I'm kind of hoping for a kind of like what Gotham Knights is doing with their multiplayers, have 2 Spider-Mans. I mean, I feel like that's their next step. It's continuations of Peter Parker's storyline, because I don't know what happens to him during this time frame. We haven't seen much on it. I don't know if I hope he's not dead, or he might be okay or hanging out with the Avengers doing something, and Miles Morales has to protect New York while he's gone or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of hoping the next one will be, 2-player co-op. You can two Spider-Mans running around, well, swinging around or whatever they do,
Yeah.
and join together to fight off another big bad. I mean, I read rumors that the next villain, and they kind of teased it at the end of this one, was going to be Venom. So
That's cool.
probably see something with that. So
Yeah.
So I mentioned this on an Instagram post, but I was thinking same thing. But maybe at the beginning of the game, you can decide if you want to be Miles Morales or Peter Parker, and then you have the co-op where the other person who jumps into your game can be the other character. But on top of that, I was also thinking, because of Gotham Knights, like how cool would it be if there's a Spider-Verse game, or intertwine that into the next Spider-Man game where you can pick a multitude, multiple different Spider-Mans, and or have 4-player co-op and all that, sort of like Avengers.
What's the female Spider character? Spider-Gwen?
Yeah.
Spider-Gwen.
Yeah.
Well, you have Spider-Gwen, Spider-Woman, and that's it.
Man.
Not 100% sure.
So yeah, there's all that stuff. How cool would it be if they made like the Into the Spider-Verse like as a game, like that art style, but as a game?
I'll take it.
Pretty sick.
Yeah. I feel like that would have to be separate from the Spider-Man we have now, because I feel like they already have like a storyline laid out for it, a story plot.
Oh yeah.
But I would like to see this, because I feel like this can be a good gunship or flagship for coming out with a whole cinematic universe with the Avengers and stuff.
Yeah.
But only problem with that is that Sony owns Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It's kind of iffy, and that's why Spider-Man's going to Avengers on only PS4.
Why you play on PS4?
Sony, that's Sony's.
Yeah.
That's why you play on PS4.
So what about how does Suicide Squad play in all this? Like, we have that coming out. Obviously, we have a long wait, 2022, but that is going to be kind of a live service-ish game like Avengers. Maybe. They haven't quite confirmed that, but we know it's 4-player co-op. So on that game, and whether you think it's going to kick off just from what the little we've seen so far.
Here, Jason, I'll shoot your question with that. Like, how popular is Suicide Squad? Like, the game looks, cool, but the movie was okay, and looking at the game, it's like I don't care about these characters at all. I know some people do, like Harley Quinn, like, and she's cool, but I don't think she's enough to really drive this game for me.
Blasphemy.
Yeah, I know. So let me know. Maybe you know more than I do.
Well, I feel like, so I have mixed feelings right now about this. They're doing it at a good time. I mean, James Gunn's The Suicide Squad is coming out soon, and after watching the behind the scenes of that, it looks extremely better, way better than the first one that they came out with. This one's going to be a soft reboot sequel. So take that in mind, however you want to take it. That's what they said. I don't know what that means, but whatever. But I feel like I don't know what they're going to go with gameplay wise with this, but it is a story, from what I can see from the trailer, is that Brainiac is involved. He has taken over the Justice League. And they came out and said this is part of the Arkham universe, so there is no Batman. So the Justice League will not be fighting the Batman. Well, I mean, Suicide Squad would not be fighting the Batman, and Batman's not there to do anything. So it's the rest of the Justice League.
Yeah.
So I am very curious on how, like, storyline is going to be fine. They have plenty of source material for this. I mean, Justice League versus Suicide Squad is a constant thing in the DC universe of comic books. But it's going to be interesting. I don't know if it's going to play as like a first person shooter. That's what I was getting the vibe from, because even Killer King Shark had a machine gun. I got almost like an Overwatch feel from it, how they were running around. That's my mindset. So I'm interested to see. I'm just going to wait for gameplay. I know the storyline is going to be great. I mean, it's from the same creators of Arkham, so that's going to be okay. It's just I want to see actual gameplay before I make a full out decision.
Right.
Yeah. But I'm not excited if it's going to be a online service game. I feel like this one should be a story-driven game and probably have the co-op feature in it, like how Gotham Knights are doing it. I don't know, or how Avengers is going about it. If that's true about what they're doing, I mean, who knows? I'm just waiting for gameplay. I need more than what I've seen, but what I saw was very interesting. It's going to be a very good storyline, and the Suicide Squad is just, they're not there to do good. They are forced there to do good. They have bombs in their heads that if they don't do what they're supposed to do, they go kaboom. That's all I have to say. So you had to keep that in mind as well. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's it.
Yeah, I like the. I mean, it took me a little bit, but I ended up really liking the vibe that they were going with in the whole game. I mean, a lot of people reference Sunset Overdrive. If anybody's ever played that, and I definitely see that a lot in this game with the more color, more vibrancy, kind of interesting dialogue and humor that shines through, which I really like a lot. But I am nervous about the live service part of it because I think I'm pretty certain it's going to turn out to be that way, and how they're going to approach that, if Rocksteady's even capable of doing that, is very interesting. But I mean, we got till 2022, so there's a lot that could change between now and if it even comes out in 2022. Because at the rate games are going these days, like 2022 could be 2024. As far as the DC versus Marvel thing goes, I mean, there's a lot of different game experiments that are going on here. If you guys could quantify, like, I mean, do you care if there's a winner in this, or if there is one, like, what would be the ultimate game that would win you over for, like, hey, DC is the de facto, like, they've got this down, or Marvel's got this down, and they like won the game space? Like, is there anything that you can think of that would win you over from either side? Just based on what you know, the history of the comics and the history of the franchises generally, like what would be that thing that would put you over the edge?
I don't have anything. I mean, they're all getting their own respects. Like, I just can't be like, oh, well, screw Marvel now. I'm not going to play any of their games anymore. You know, it's all relative, man. It's all relative. Yeah. I mean, Avengers is great. I'm hoping Gotham Knights will be great. You know, Arkham Knight was great. I'll play that. I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm not going to play any Marvel games because that was so good. Doesn't compare. Yeah. But
I guess, is there any like ideal game that's missing that is coming, that, I mean, or is Marvel Avengers the ideal game that you want in the Marvel universe, or is there something else that, or some other approach that you think would be, no, this is it. This is the thing that I've been wanting that isn't here yet.
If they put Civil War into Marvel's Avengers, they got it.
Nice.
Yeah.
I would just like a good Superman game. just one.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like if they did a different hero for DC, it'll be interesting. I would like to see that more. I mean, hopefully they touch a little bit more on it with Suicide Squad, and hopefully that will lead to more superheroes.
Yeah.
I would like to see that. And then with Marvel, they need a good foundation right now. And I mean, we have to see how this Avengers game will play out. So far, it's not bad, but I think that's what's going to really shine for them. And they're going to keep coming out with more games. And I would like to see more different heroes. I mean, like, you have the X-Men and Punisher. That'll be the old Punisher game way back in the day on the PS2, and I love that game. I would like to see a Punisher game. Yeah. So I mean, they can do a lot. They have a lot of characters, but just have to wait and see. If you want to say there's a winner in this war right now, or I would say battle, I'd say DC has it just because they have a foundation. They just need to expand more, take that hint a little bit, and like, hey, we have a lot more other characters. We can expand, and hopefully we can see more of this. Maybe have it all connected some way, somehow.
That's tough.
That's going to be difficult to connect them all.
I think a Deadpool game would be kind of cool, because I know the last one. Game. Yeah. I don't think it got good reviews, but I never played it. It looked okay. And then if they had like a Deathstroke game where you just go assassinate people, that'd be cool.
Well, Arkham Origins was actually supposed to do another spin-off at the very end. They left it open for a Deathstroke Suicide Squad game, but Origins didn't do so hot. I think they said, "Yeah, no, we're good."
Yeah, because that's a really interesting thing is I'm sure you guys are aware of this, but if not, WB Montreal was working on a Suicide Squad game, and they got pretty far into it, and then they ended up having to can it. I don't know if it wasn't going the right direction or something was going wrong, so they had to shift focus, and that's why they ended up then going the route of the Gotham Knights game, and then Rocksteady picked up doing the Suicide Squad part of it.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
But there actually was a development of a Suicide Squad game being made by WB Montreal.
That's just so random and weird.
Yeah. And I was listening to them talk to Rocksteady about what they wanted to do, and they were thinking about where they wanted to go next, and they knew they didn't want to go back into Batman because they've been there, done that, and they were playing with different ideas. And I mean, honestly, it could have been Rocksteady that was like, well, we're the powerhouse studio here, so we'd rather do Suicide Squads. And they're like, okay, Montreal, sorry, we're gonna can you guys on this, and then they're gonna take over.
Sounds about right.
That. I don't know, but anyway, so well, that's gonna wrap it up for discussion this week, everybody. Thank you for joining in with us on this DC versus Marvel conversation with the video game industry. If you want to contribute to next week's segment, you can give us a shout at theinnergamer.net, or you can join us on our Discord channel with a link in the show notes and give us some insight there.